We again have Miss Anna, owner, social media manager, and speaker, with us to tell about her inspiring entrepreneur story. Pinterest Pro Anna, owner of Pinterest Pro Solutions, turns motel and resort owners' Pinterest accounts into the hospitality brand for travelers. She was recognized as one of the top 100 women in e-commerce by WE Magazine. She has been a featured guest on Vincent Ng's podcast Pictures to Profits, the Real Estate Quarterback Show, and That Business Show. In addition, she has contributed to the Amazon bestseller Woman Innovator, Leader, Makers and Givers, and the Real Estate Quarterbacks Consumer Advocacy. She also serves on the Caribbean Crab Academy for Social Media Advisory Board, the Educational Advisory Board of the Federal Reserve Bank, and the Innovative Growth Advisory Board. As an award-winning economic instructor, Anna grant the NASDAQ Southeast Region Economic Educator of the Year Award. Welcome, Ms. Anna, to GDMS 2.
Okay, here we go. All right, as he said, my name is Anna Vanlandingham, and I own a company called Pinterest Pro Solutions. And I thought I would do my presentation a little bit different, maybe from some of the other entrepreneurs, because as I was thinking about this, I thought, how do I approach it? Because I was a teacher, as he was saying, and then I decided that I would become an entrepreneur. So I decided the way I would put it together is to present it as like a parable. So I'm going to talk in the third person, probably because it makes it easier for me and all. But this is, I say, this is once was a girl with a curl. This is my parable. And I use this quote here: formal education will make you a living, self-education will make you a fortune, to kind of bring it all together for me. So what I'm going to talk about is this girl with the curl, how she went from the cotton fields of Mississippi to 32 different countries as a teacher. And then from there to starting a company called Pinterest Pro Solutions. And, you know, take you through the process of how this took place. And also talk about some of the problems that I've run into with beginning my own company and being an entrepreneur. You know, after being in the classroom and teaching economics, I thought I knew it all, but I found out that you make mistakes along the way and you don't even know you're doing it. And a lot of it is just lack of experience. Like I said, there once was a girl with a curl who was born in Mississippi. My family income was at tops $8,000 a year, and my parents were high school dropouts. Now, why do I bring that up? I bring that up to say that anybody can be an entrepreneur. A lot of times people think, oh, she had, you know, things, she had it made, but I really did not. I had to make my own way, really, as far as that is concerned. So the girl with the curl always wanted to be a teacher, and so I did become a macroeconomics teacher, and I was nationally and internationally recognized, as he told you. And I also had the opportunity to do a lot of international studies. And this girl with the curl was very proud of herself. She felt like she was on top of the world. And some of the recognition that she received is she was recognized by NASDAQ as one of the top educators as far as the free enterprise system is concerned, and had the wonderful opportunity of going to New York City and opening up NASDAQ. And she was recognized by Junior Achievement as the International Teacher of the Year, and had the opportunity of going to Japan and speaking to a group of teachers, and did the Czech Republic Teacher Exchange. So you can see this girl with a curl, you know, started out with not a whole lot of, but she provided her opportunities and became what she'd always dreamed of. And so you can imagine with all of that, and then also doing the international studies at the Higher School of Economics at the UE, and also the Asian studies in China and Japan, she felt like she could do anything, that she was just on top of the world. But then along came retirement. It was time to retire. And so all of a sudden, this girl with a curl felt like, okay, what do I do now? I was on top of the world. I was somebody within my field and highly recognized. So what am I going to do now? And so the girl with the curl listened to a lot of different people talking and making suggestions and so forth. And so she decided to form the company, Pinterest Pro Solutions. And of course, this is a company where I manage Pinterest accounts for business owners. But the problem was that the girl with the curl was listening to a lot of business coaches that were telling her all the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and the betters and the oughts and so forth. And of course, she thought that all these people knew what they were talking about because they, were business coaches and they should. And she had just been, a teacher, so she should pay attention. So the girl with the curl did all these networking groups and workshops and coaching and speaking at different engagements and so forth. And all of a sudden it dawned on her that even though with doing all of this, she did receive a lot of honors and recognition, and these are some of the ones that she received, she was not really getting a lot of ROI on it, so to speak. And so she was confused because she had done what business coaches told her to do. She had done what, people suggested, so it should have worked. And so, the girl with the curl started feeling pretty much like, she was a failure. And also the girl with the curl said, whoa, wait a minute. I've spent over $80,000, so I call that my $80,000 tuition on trainings, coaches, traveling places, and so forth. And all I've seen is my revenue to decline. So something's wrong here. And what the girl with the curl had not realized, and once, going through some of these experiences, was that most of the people that were giving her advice were not giving advice that fit her mission, that fit her personality. And even though maybe it was good advice for other people, it wasn't necessarily something that was a good fit for her. And I wanted to talk about this because I feel like a lot of times as entrepreneurs, when we start out and we start listening to all these different people and all these advices, that entrepreneurs do feel like, what am I doing wrong? And of course, the downside of being an entrepreneur is most of the time you start out as a one-man show. You don't have a lot of people to talk to. And so therefore, you kind of start to take it personal, so to speak. But the girl with the curl realized that that was not necessarily true. And, she did some self-assessment, just like I tell clients to do an assessment of whether the social media is working for you or not. The girl with the curl believed that that's what you need to do for yourself. And she realized that what she needed to do was to get back to her core values. She had listened to people to say, you can't be so trustworthy, you can't be so naive, and these sort of things. And also, some advisors tried to get her to do the hard sales, calling up people all the time and so forth. But that just was not her personality. And so I say to you, when you're, first starting out, or even now as an entrepreneur, and you're seeking out advice, do your research and make sure that it's a good fit, that they really know you as a person. Because really, as an entrepreneur, you are the business. Once the girl with the curl realized that these are the basics that she needed to get back to, then she started to see growth in her company because she was doing what came natural. She was also more comfortable, and people could sense that in her. And so, as a result, the girl with the curl found her way, and of course, that's me with my company, Pinterest Pro Solutions, and became successful. And I was on the road to success. And I sought out people that fit with my philosophy as far as business and life in general really was concerned. And that is what has helped me to become a successful entrepreneur. And I'll say it again. I'm saying this because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, when we're struggling, we tend to think that it's us, that, we, or maybe our idea was a bad idea. I went through all of those things. And I always say, no idea is a bad idea. You just, if you really believe in it. And so I feel like that the keys to my success, I went through these trials and tribulations, and I learned a lot from it. I will say that is you have to believe. I always say you have to believe in your gut. What does your gut tell you as far as is this the route that you should take or not? And of course, stick to your strategy. Whenever you've developed a strategy for your company and a mission for your company, a lot of times, people feel like that, hey, this, during a low period, maybe I need to make a change. And I went through some of that, constantly changing my strategy, rebranding myself. And I come to realize that you have to develop a strategy, give it time, and stick to it. And the most important thing that I think so many business owners, so many entrepreneurs forget to do is know who your buyer persona is. And I say that because when I first started out and I was speaking to certain groups, I come to realize as I was doing my self-evaluation that a lot of these groups that I was speaking to really was not my buyer persona. They were people that did not have an appreciation for what social media could do for them. They were people that did not have a marketing budget. And so therefore I was really wasting my time. So, you got to know that buyer persona to not only know where you need to spend your time wisely as far as marketing is concerned, but also in deciding what social media platforms you want to use. And make sure that you're using the appropriate platforms whenever you choose a social media platform to market your company. And along with that, I'll say you have to have a website. In my prior presentation, when I was talking about social transformation, I talked about the fact that people often forget that they don't own what's on Facebook or Pinterest or Instagram, but you own your website. And so that's where you're wanting people to go to find out more about you. Another thing that I suggest is form what I call a board of directors. And these are people that are in line with you and your way of thinking as far as, your beliefs and so forth as business is concerned. It's like an advisory board and, not a glorified board of directors, but just people in certain areas that can give you advice on whenever you need someone to talk to. Because as entrepreneurs, one is the loneliest number is our theme song. And so if you form this group that you can go to and talk to for advice, then it's going to be very helpful for you. And another thing is I learned that depending on automation was not a bad thing. With Pinterest, I began to use Viral Tag, and they had a lot of great features that helped me to be more efficient and use my time a lot more wisely and being much more productive as far as my marketing and so forth was concerned. Also, I began to use the platform Zoom, where I could have conferences with people over the internet and not do as much traveling because of course the travel time had eat up a lot of my time where I could be working on new ideas as far as my company is concerned. So, make sure you do your research. If you're thinking about hiring someone as a coach, and I'm not, that is a great idea, but do your research and make sure that it is someone that can truly help you with your business before you spend your money. Uh, the first coach I hired, I come to realize that she was a high school dropout. And I thought, I'm taking advice from her, and she's never even had a successful company. But you see, that was hindsight. I was, young in the business and just didn't know. I took people, at their word. And a question that was asked of me once that really hit home, and the person said, "Is this a hobby or is it a business?" Because if you're truly wanting to be an entrepreneur and start a business, you're going to have to be dedicated to that and be willing to spend a lot of hours working on that business to build it into a successful company. I mean, an overnight success, it takes at least 7 years to be able to create that. So it's going to take eat up a lot of your time. And so, but if it's just a hobby, then, you don't have to spend money because you're not really committed to it. But you need to have confidence in your company's mission because there'll be a lot of naysayers out there. And that was something that I had to learn. Because like when I first started my Pinterest Pro Solutions, I had people saying, "Well, why are you doing that? Pinterest is just a bunch of housewives." But being an economist, I was a visionary. And of course, Pinterest has grown into something very dynamic for business owners to use. And just because someone says they're an expert, it doesn't mean that they really are an expert. And if you're going to truly build a business as an entrepreneur, what I found out is a marketing budget is a necessity. It's not an option. Because how else are you going to make people aware of your service or your product? And social media needs to be a part of that marketing strategy. And so back to the quote that I shared with you, formal education will make you a living. And for the first part of my life, that's what happened. It did. It made me a living, a very good living. But when I decided to be an entrepreneur, I discovered that the self-education and the self-evaluation is what will make you a fortune. And so I have stuck to those principles, and as a result, my company has been, successful. And if you, like I said, if you want to talk just, about entrepreneurship, talk about Pinterest, whatever, you can email me at this email address. And we can do a 30-minute Zoom meeting. I don't care where you live, because that's the great part about technology, is that we can do that. And so what I will do now is stop my screen share, and in the chat over here, I will put my email address. And then that way, even after the question and answer session, I can.
Thanks, Mr. Ann, and it was a splendid presentation done by you.
Ask me about. Feel free.
So we have a question here by Ms. Crystal. What are the common mistakes to be avoided in storytelling?
Well, like I said, the main mistake is not developing a plan, not knowing what your buyer persona is. And because it took me a while to realize what people were talking about, knowing who my buyer persona, my target market was. Because then, once you know that, you know where you need to spend your time with marketing and where. So, if you know that your buyer persona is a business person, a professional that, and their company brings in $500,000 or more, and they have a marketing budget of X amount of dollars, then you know that perhaps LinkedIn is where you need to focus your marketing. And that's before you do anything, you need to come up with your mission, is what you're trying to accomplish, and then knowing who your target market and your buyer persona, even to where those people shop. Because that also, again,
Okay,
helps you
thank
to
you,
know
Miss
not only
Anna.
where to
And if you
market,
have
but what
another
type
question,
of
how to
marketing
increase
would
growth
appeal
and
to these people.
engagement?
With growth and engagement, what you're going to have to do is to see what resonates with your audience. And the most important thing to me always, and probably because I'm an economist, is taking a look at the analytics. Whatever you're using, I don't care if it's paying, millions of dollars for an ad on TV or whether it's, using Facebook. Look at your analytics and see what type of things do people seem to react to? What type of messages? For example, on your Facebook, if you are putting a lot of tutorials on there for, demonstrating how to use your product, and you seem to get a lot of interaction for that, then you know that that's something to give them more of. And research, doing the research is so important, and crunching the numbers so that you quit just throwing things up there, so to speak, and knowing, okay. And here again, this is where, remember I talked about the board of directors. This is where that really comes in to be very helpful, because sometimes you'll get to that point where you're saying, I have tried everything. I don't know what to do. I'm not getting any interaction. And as a result, I'm not seeing much growth. Well, brainstorming with others is going to help, And you may not use any of their ideas, but it helps you
Okay,
to
here
get to
we go with
thinking
another
about some other
question. What
possibilities of
should
what you
your
could do
storytelling
to
strategy
help your
include?
company to grow. Your storytelling needs to be something that stirs the emotions, because emotions are what drives sales. Think about it a minute. Someone will either purchase or not purchase something because of emotions. Okay? It either is going to make them very happy or it's going to solve a problem for them. And so in your storytelling, you want to include that. I've used the example of Publix grocery store because I think they do such a good job. They will have commercials on TV, and they will have things on social media where they'll have, it's a storyline of how, say, one of their customers helped out someone, or I love their Thanksgiving and their Christmas ones where they have family type things where one year at Thanksgiving they had the little salt and pepper shakers of the pilgrims, and when nobody was around, the little salt and pepper shakers came to life, and it just it needs to
Okay,
be
thank you
something
so
that's going to
much.
stir the
And
emotion,
here we go with
but at
another
the same
question. What
time
would you
fits
suggest
your
in the
mission
current
as
trend,
an entrepreneur.
which would be the best startup in digital marketing field to begin with?
I don't know. No, with the current trend, I would say that I would focus on Instagram and Pinterest, because not just because I do Pinterest, but Pinterest within the last year, really within the last 6 months, the things that they have done, the changes that they have made have been phenomenal. And I feel like that because of that a lot of business owners are setting up and taking notice. And that's especially if you are in, say, the fashion industry, or you're in the travel industry, because a large percentage of people out there plan their vacations on Pinterest. And so the great part is that you're getting them in that planning stage. You know, they're going on there, and let's say that you're, a resort. Well, they're looking at ideas for vacation, and they see your resort on there. And whereas, so many times people will go on Google and, they figure out they want to go to Gatlinburg, so they type that in. But you see, you're suggesting ideas to them while they're planning. And so to me, right now, those Instagram and Pinterest are two very good areas to get into. And again, with Instagram, especially if
Okay,
your
here we
market
go with the
is
last
for,
question. What is the
35
most
and under,
valuable digital
because
tactic
that
for
is where they are
small
for
business
sure.
owners?
Keep it personal, and I don't mean personal about you. Keep it personal for the customers. And by that, show them what's in it for them. Constantly showing them how your company, whether it's a product or a service, can really benefit them as a business owner. And that's really hard. That was a lesson that, it took me a while to learn, and probably because I was a teacher, I was always telling people how to do stuff, and they don't care. They just want to know, how will your company help me? Or how will your
Okay.
product help
And
me?
what types of
And
stories
if you
appeal
don't
to
tell them
your
that,
content marketing
they're not going
persons?
to pay attention. Uh, with the stories, for me, it would be showing them how Pinterest has helped to build their business and grow. What I come to realize is uh, showing statistics of how growth took place in the company. I even did a couple of where I gratuitously managed Pinterest accounts because I wanted to get into the hotel industry. So a hotel owner that I knew, because stayed at his place so many times, I asked him if I could create a Pinterest account. And the main reason that I wanted to do that was, yeah, I liked the guy and all that, but was so I would have some data to show people, to say, this is how it works. This is what will work
Okay,
for
we have
you. And let
another
me show
question
you
reached by the
how
audience.
they
What are the
increased.
commodities? Ms. Anna, thanks for your time
I'm not sure I
in
understand
for
that
such an
question.
valuable information. You shared a lot in this audience, middle of the audience in GDMS 2. Thanks for your time again, and we are expecting your presence in the next e-conference also. Thank you so much, ma'am.